I refused to attend my brother's wedding, confronting my high school bullies and the deep emotional trauma they left behind. Our first story comes from Pup Banana, and it follows with an update. So, if you've heard the story before, as always, feel free to use the timestamps and get straight to that update. It's titled, Am I the asshole for pulling out of my brother's wedding because my old bullies will be there? My brother B is getting married to his fiancée, F. They went to the same high school as me. I used to be mercilessly bullied in high school and didn't have any friends, which led to a horrible period of depression and anxiety. I now mainly deal by suppressing those memories and cutting off contact with people I knew from high school. F used to be part of a mean girl clique, who were especially terrible to me, but to be fair, she was more of a follower in the clique. She never directly bullied me, but she used to just laugh along with her clique when her clique made fun of me. When B started dating F, I was shocked and had a hard time dealing with it because it brought back what a clique used to do to me. If I ever bring up something they did, F usually just laughs it off, saying she doesn't remember, and they were probably just young and stupid. It took a lot of convincing by B and a lot of time working on myself for me to finally forgive F and accept her as my brother's girlfriend. B and F are now engaged, and B asked me to be his best woman. I accepted and even agreed to help out with F's side of the wedding events because her maid of honor has too much on her plate. The wedding planning has been going smoothly so far, until F told me she was going to invite her high school clique to her bachelorette party when she can have it. I immediately felt the old anxiety come back and asked her if they will be invited to the wedding too. She said yes, and learning that nearly crushed me. I spent some time thinking about it. I don't think I could be at a wedding if those people are there. F, at least, never tortured me herself, so I can handle it. But seeing her gang leaders again would very likely trigger my depression, or, worse, send me into a panic attack at the wedding itself. I told B that I might need to pull out of the wedding because of that. But I can still help however I can with the wedding planning as long as I don't have to come in contact with F's old gang. B is very upset and says I'm only thinking of myself, and clearly I don't want to be at his wedding because I don't accept F as his future wife. He also told me that I should move on from whatever happened in high school, but even if I tried to do that, a high-stress event like his wedding would be the worst time to test if moving on works. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. And from my past and trying to put myself in your position, I wouldn't want to be there either. It's just as simple as that, really. I wouldn't want to be in the same room, sat with people that bullied me in the past. Absolutely. There's no way. And your brother is very much wrong for saying, oh, this happened in your childhood kind of thing. You need to move on from it. I can't believe he's not looking at your side of things and saying that he was bullied by these people and understand where you're coming from. And I do worry about the fiancé as well. You know, she didn't exactly say sorry to you. She just went, oh yeah, I can't really remember. Come on now, people can remember stuff like that in their past. Although, to be fair, I have heard stories, of people approaching their old bullies and then them totally not remembering either, and genuinely not remembering, which hurts even more in some ways. I think you're being very mature about the way you're dealing with it as well. You're not saying, screw this wedding completely, I hate all those people. You're saying that I will help with the wedding up to a point, but I just can't sit there in the same room with these people. But I have a very biased opinion on this one, so we'll move to the comments to see what they say. Then we have a little edit, then we go to the update. And we're starting off with Ugly Duffel Bag, who says, not the asshole. I'm sick and tired of people telling emotionally scarred victims to move on because it was in childhood. I know people aren't accepting any kind of consequences, but rarely what type of abuse is so dismissed and mocked as school abuse. Oh, it's fine. You've spent your formative years tormented by your peers. Why can't you move on? The whole thing is so ridiculous, as if just because it was fellow children abusing you, it is suddenly fine. And then we're labeled as pathetic because in your adulthood, we have to deal with the consequences of the abuse that was indeed carried out by, at the time, children, but supported and endorsed by adults, people whose job should have been protecting us and setting a good example. Nope, F that. She will never stop triggering you, and the least you can do for yourself is not go to the wedding to have a smile in the face of people who abused you. Mind you, you are being considerate. You have trauma. There is no guarantee you'll be able to look happy at the wedding, no matter how hard you try. An unhappy guest at the wedding is a shitty guest. You're doing them a favor. Also, F remembers full well. Do with that info as you will, but she's full of it when she claims she forgot. If she were truly worthy of your forgiveness, she'd have a big talk with you, deeply apologize with no excuses, acknowledge your trauma, and disinvite her clique because they are her high school friends and you are her sister-in-law. KLC says, not the asshole. The fiancé never apologized for what she and her friends put you through. She just made excuses. Have you told her how upsetting it is to see these people? Talk to her directly. If she blows you off, you know she doesn't care about you and has no loyalty to family. You would not be the asshole if you pull out the wedding because of that. Buttering your biscuit says, not the asshole, but this is really a situation where you should talk to a therapist or counselor about your feelings. It's reasonable for B to be upset, but not reasonable for him to take it out on you, to start making accusations about how you feel about F. And there's one more from Wonder Wife who says, OP, I'm not invalidating any of your choices or feelings. I also have trauma. I know there is no cookie-cutter answer to how to deal with it. However, I've always subscribed to the theory that my mental health and trauma is mine to manage, and thus I have pursued therapy to help me learn the necessary coping mechanisms. I have diagnosed PTSD from various traumas, including 2 very separate events, different people, places, reasons, many years apart, where I was very nearly intentionally murdered. Every time I felt a shift in my ability to cope, or immediately after an unforeseen traumatic event, I've booked my butt to a therapist. My trauma is not my fault, but it is my responsibility to manage in a way that it doesn't negatively affect me or the people I care about. I understand that you cut off the high school folks and felt like you didn't need therapy at the time, which is valid. The unforeseen consequence of never truly dealing with those traumas and learning the necessary coping mechanisms is now you are in a position where you have to choose whether to significantly upset your family for the foreseeable future, not going to your brother's wedding, or publicly exposing yourself to dramatic triggers without having done the work to learn the necessary coping mechanisms. I sincerely hope you do whatever you need to do to take care of your own mental health, and that whatever fallout is minimal. Good luck, OP. And before we have the update, there's a little edit which says, I don't think B and F are bad people at heart. B just really wants me at his wedding, and F, despite our past, has become quite nice and has made efforts to improve her relationship with me, but still not BFFs, but I recognize her efforts enough to help with the wedding. This new development is just unfortunately too emotionally charged as of now. B says he will stop talking about it, but he's saving me a seat at the wedding no matter what, and he hopes it won't be empty. It's the best decision I can hope for at the moment, and I hope we can work it out before the wedding. And now we'll move on to the update. So, update. Hello, this update might not be that interesting, but in my last post, I couldn't answer all the questions due to a temporary ban. Some folks did ask for updates, so I'd like to get some sort of almost closure. Like I said in my last post, I don't think F is a bad person. She tried very hard to grow closer to me after our rocky start. It's a lot of small steps that I can't describe, but one example is how she made a point to remember my favorite food to cook or find out what I like to help B pick presents for me. I really did appreciate the effort, which is why I got over my initial disapproval of the relationship, even if she never outright apologized to me. Right after I posted, the situation was tense for weeks. I barely talked to B, and our mum heard I didn't want to be at the wedding and got upset at me too. The weird thing was, our mum being mad actually turned me around. I told B once how mum told me to just get over it when I was being bullied, so when she was ranting at me for being selfish, B snapped and told her it was partly her fault this was happening too. There were lots of tears over a few days, but at the end, I managed to tell B everything I went through. B got mum to back off and told me he wouldn't be mad or pressure me anymore, but he still would like me to be at his wedding if I feel better. What happened next with F actually was the most shocking. I still didn't talk to her after I reconciled with B because we both felt too awkward, and a bachelorette party went on without me. After the party, F finally reached out. Turned out when her old clique went to her party, she got them to write an apology to me. She gave me an apology letter signed by them and herself, plus some notes from the girls who wanted to add their own apology. It was surreal to get those notes, and it took me days to finish reading because I kept crying. Honestly, I still don't know how to feel about them or how much they actually helped. But what I decided was that this was clearly an effort to mend things from F's side, and I should meet them halfway. My intention now is to try and make it to the wedding since B and F have done their parts. With that said, I'm still worried about my mental state when the actual day comes, and I'm talking to B about backup plans in case I can't feel better enough by then. I'm looking into therapy, and I've tried 2 different therapists. Neither feels quite right yet, since I still feel very uncomfortable talking about what happened, and I'm actively looking for options to resolve my issues. This is probably one of the better ways my situation could have played out, and I'm lucky that I got B back on my side. For those who came with their own bullying experiences, please know that you're in my heart, and I truly hope we can all get better together. Please take care and stay strong. I probably will log out this throwaway and read the comments logged out, so I apologize if I miss any messages. Thanks, everyone. Wow, that was pretty interesting about the bachelorette party, and they turned around and wrote an apology letter whilst there. It would have been interesting at the time to, be a fly on the wall when they was writing that to see if they were genuine and how they felt about the situation and did discuss it further. Or, is this not a genuine letter? In some ways, it does feel like the way OP talks about, fiancé in this post, that she does sound pretty genuine. From what happened in the past, although she was not directly involved, she was laughing on the side kind of thing. It does sound like she feels bad about the past and is trying to make amends in some way, which I think is a really positive thing. I don't know whether the letters are a positive. I was just trying to think if, one of my bullies wrote me a letter, how would I feel about that? I kind of think in my head right now, and I know that sounds really petty of me, that I wouldn't be able to forgive them anyway for what they've done. But it would feel nice to know that they do still think about what they did do and the trauma that they may have caused. But who knows? What do you guys make of this update? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to the next story. Story 2. Am I the asshole for sending the police to my daughter's place? And our next story comes from a string of numbers. Title: Am I the asshole for sending the police to my daughter's place? I'm a mother of 2, a 13-year-old male and a 22-year-old female. My daughter lives in a rental apartment with her boyfriend. Personally, I'm not too fond of him due to behavioral issues. He's the kind of guy who speaks insensitively, especially about my disabled husband. He has nothing against him, but he keeps making backhanded comments about him constantly, and for that, I limit his visits to my house since I have a younger son, and it's not acceptable to speak about his dad this way. Only my older daughter visits for the time being, but she complains about me being too harsh on her boyfriend. One day, she brought up my husband's pickup truck that's been sitting in the garage since my husband got injured, disabled, and asked if I was willing to give it to her and her boyfriend to fix and use. I declined since the owner is pretty much alive and well, and he gets the final say on what to do with it. My husband loves this truck and holds it dear to his heart, so I see it as a precious object. My daughter kept bringing it up, saying her dad can't drive anymore, so I should let her boyfriend have it. I sternly told her to stop talking about it. Thursday, I was out shopping when my son called, saying her sister's boyfriend came over and towed the truck and left with it. I was furious. I called my daughter, but she didn't answer. I sent a voicemail saying I'd call the police if they didn't return the truck, but nothing. I waited for a few hours, then called the police and had them sent to my daughter's place to retrieve the truck. Her boyfriend was arrested in the process. My daughter called crying, saying I should tell the police to let him go, as she gave him the key to our house to take the truck, but I denied giving permission to take it. She came to me, begging to go to the police station and get her boyfriend out, but I refused and said I won't drop it after he broke in and stole the truck, and her excuse didn't hold up since she wasn't a resident of the house to give him permission to enter, let alone take the truck. Her boyfriend's mom threatened me, saying her nephew is a cop and will get him out, no problem, but I ignored her. My daughter kept yelling at my husband when he was in bed, telling me to say something. That's when I told her to leave. My family got involved, saying I should let her boyfriend get out, or I'll lose my daughter and get her to hate me. But I refused. Otherwise, he'd do it again. I'm not sure if I'm morally doing the right thing since that's my daughter's boyfriend and she cares about him. Now I come into this one and saying absolutely not the asshole. The guy stole the truck. He came in and took it away, deserves to get arrested. Simple as that. But I was thinking at the same time, daughter gave boyfriend the key. I wonder if she said, yeah, they said that you can take the truck, go ahead and take it. And although the boyfriend may generally be an asshole anyway, did he think he had permission to take the truck? I mean, it's all very weird, going into someone's house, having the key, and then just going in and taking the truck. It all sounds very suspicious to me anyway, but I was just thinking that's an opposite side of things here. So, both of those are assholes, and I wouldn't want them snooping around your house if they're willing to do that. And your daughter's a part of this as well. And has she always been like this? Or has she suddenly changed since she got into a relationship? Or what? What's changed here? That's what's going through my head. But absolutely not the asshole for calling the police, and hopefully they would get to the bottom of it. Whether he's just going to get released or whatever, I don't know. Or whether he's going to say, well, girlfriend gave me the key. Then she'll admit to saying like, yeah, I told him to go and take the truck. Be very interesting. I would love an update on this one, but let's cover some comments to see what they say. And we'll start with A Life Well saying, not the asshole. She knew the answer and sent him anyway. This is all on her. I will change all the locks and not give her a key. Surround 19 replies that saying this, you know that your daughter and her boyfriend feel entitled to anything of yours or your husband's that they want. I mean, if there's still a truck, something that has an actual title document, I can't imagine what they wouldn't help themselves to. Change the locks and make sure they only have access to your house when you guys are home. I'm sorry to say this since it seems like you want to put most of the blame on the boyfriend, but your daughter created this situation. She gave the boyfriend the house key so he could take the truck after you said no. It's not just the boyfriend who can't be trusted. Not the asshole, absolutely. Simply Grimly says, not the asshole. You clearly told her no multiple times. She and her boyfriend went behind your back and stole your husband's truck when you weren't home. The entitlement there is absolutely astounding. And then they pushed that further by demanding you drop the issue. She allowed her boyfriend to steal from a disabled father. Absolutely not the asshole. He needs a reality check. He committed a crime and got arrested for it. That's entirely his responsibility, and you aren't obligated to absolve him of that simply because she loves him, and she needs a reality check too if she thinks any of this is okay. Data Girl 60 says, not the asshole. However, your daughter is the one who should be in jail. I've actually told him that she had permission. Narangem says, not the asshole. If anything, your daughter should be also facing charges because she's the one who told him to get the truck and gave him the keys to access it. Her boyfriend might be let off the hook in court because he could reasonably use the defense that he thought that you had given your permission since your daughter told him to get the truck and he didn't think she'd send him over to steal it. If the boyfriend's mother wants to be mad at anyone, she should be mad at your daughter because without her instigating this, I doubt it would have happened. Also, your daughter could have avoided her boyfriend being arrested if she'd either answered their damn phone or returned the truck within a few hours. Now, what's your thoughts on this one? Do you think the daughter did turn around and say, yeah, just gonna take the truck? They said you can do it. And what kind of logic is that anyway from an adult? Thinking that, as they said in the story, that this has got a title, this has got paperwork to go with it, that you're gonna go, oh, they got the truck now, let's let them keep it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we move on to the next story. Story 3. Am I the asshole for continuing to ignore my estranged husband during our son's birthday vacation? And the next story comes from Son's B-Day Vacation, titled, Am I the asshole for continuing to ignore my estranged husband during our son's birthday vacation? My estranged husband put me on the spot, and I ended up agreeing to come to our son's birthday vacation to visit his paternal family. We've been separated for 2.5 years and have the absolute minimum contact possible while sharing a child. So I don't understand why he'd want me here. The vacation has been surprisingly nice. My in-laws have been nice to me, and our son is having a great time, but I'm still irritated at my husband a lot of the time. My in-laws take our son out to do activities. Sometimes my husband goes, but recently he's been staying behind with me. I've been giving him the silent treatment whenever this happens. I do speak to him in front of our son, but otherwise, I act like he isn't there. One thing my husband hates is being ignored, so he started to get upset. Yesterday, he called me childish for ignoring him and asked me if I was going to do this until I flew home. I kept ignoring him, and now he's sulking. Am I the asshole? And here I go again, jumping into conclusions straight after a story. I know it's not great. I know it's not great. But I kind of felt like it sounds in some way like he's manipulated you into going on to that trip. And it almost sounds like the in-laws are in on it. Obviously, they knew you were coming and stuff like that. And is this a setup to try and get you two back together, kind of? That's what I was going for. That's the way I was kind of feeling as I was reading it. The indoors taking your son out and, quite happily leaving you both behind and all this sort of stuff. And because you was kind of like manipulated to going on to this trip, I don't think he was wrong to ignore this person, that you don't get on with. You're getting on with them for the sake of your child. You're friendly in front of the child. That's all that matters, I think. Is there a better way of dealing with it? I know it's debatable. I mean, you could ignore them, or you could grey rock them instead. It might be a better way of going about it. But I would love to know your thoughts on this one. I'm going to go with a not the asshole, simply because it sounds there was a lot of manipulation in this one, and it seems like there's something shady going on, to me anyway. But the disciple Matt says, you're the asshole. Why would you even agree to set this up in the first place if you were going to continue status quo? You did this to yourself by agreeing. Even for the sake of your son, I don't see why he would ask you to go, but I can't weigh in on his decision. OP replies that saying, I agreed because he asked me in front of our son and kept pressure on me when I tried to explain to our son that it was supposed to be his time with his dad. He kept saying things like, oh, daddy doesn't mind if mommy comes, and it'll be fun if mommy comes too. My son kept begging and saying he would only go if I went. My son hasn't spent a lot of time with his dad's paternal family because of the pandemic, so I felt like I had to accept for his sake. Atabi says that, no one's an asshole here. He wants you back, by the way. Purplem12 says, I see. I land on he wants you back, but everyone sucks here. The silent treatment is petty and asshole-ish, but it's also an asshole move to use the kid to try and get back with your ex. Sounds like the in-laws are nice, though. Wonderful Horror asks, you might be a bit immature, but not the asshole. How is he trying to engage you while his parents and your son are out for the day? Do you think he genuinely isn't interested in whatever activity or is just trying to be alone with you? OP replied saying, the first time he asked me if I wanted to go swimming. I said no, so he told me I should come watch him swim. That's when I started ignoring him because I knew what he was getting at, since he has invited me to go and do things, tried to get me to come into his room so he could show me something, suggest that we leave our son with his parents for a few days and go visit a place we spent part of our honeymoon at. Ask me if I missed him, and if I was still angry at him, among other things. I think he's trying to be alone with me, and this was his goal the whole time. And we have one more question from Ivy Gray, who says, Info. So it's pretty obvious there's some underlying issues, but without context, it's a bit difficult to understand. What did he do to cause the separation? Also, he is the asshole for using your kids to manipulate you. OP replies again, saying, I don't want to go into the dirty details because I don't think it's relevant, but I found out he had ulterior motives for marrying me, and he was a complete remorseless ass when I confronted him. I found out on the day we were supposed to go to an event, so I naturally didn't want to go after having that bomb dropped on me, and we got into a huge fight where he got really angry at me and told me that as his wife, I had to do what he told me to do when he told me to do it, and he ended up forcing me to go. Wow. Now, what do you guys make of this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to the next story. Story 4. Am I the asshole for not trying to bite off my mother-in-law's food, even though it's considered rude where they are from? And this next story comes from a throwaway account titled, Am I the asshole for not trying to bite off my mother-in-law's food, even though it's considered rude where they are from? My husband and I went to a dinner party planned by his mother, presumably just a little get-together. This wasn't the first time I had met them, as we've been married for about a year, but this was the first dinner party I've attended. My husband is Asian white, and I am African American, if that matters. When we get there, everything is going well, up until his mother and father announces dinner time. We helped set up the plates. Once everyone sits down, my mother-in-law announces she cooked a new dish, and she's excited for us to try. My husband's family all sit down to eat, including me. We're about 15 to 20 minutes into dinner when my mother-in-law taps my shoulder, asking why I haven't made myself a plate yet. I explained to her that I was actually not in the mood to eat, but everything looked delicious. She goes quiet for a second before going on a rant about how she didn't take so long to prepare, grocery shop, cook, and set the meals just for me to not eat any of it. I looked awkwardly to my husband, and he just shrugged, clearly fearful of his mom. One of his cousins chimed in to say that the least I could do is take a small bite. Wouldn't hurt. I shook my head, saying my stomach hurt, and I would not be forcing myself to eat anything for the sake of anyone's feelings. And I don't just eat anyone's cooking. My mother-in-law accused me of accusing her of being unclean, to which I said she was taking my words out of context. She then spat some stuff about how I'm not a good wife to my husband since I absolutely refuse to be Asian cooking, and I'm too American anyways. I didn't say much back. Dinner was pretty awkward after that, and my husband told me that I should have just tried a bite. I told him I hadn't meant to be rude. I was just taught by my own mother not to just eat anyone's cooking, and I refused to be forced to eat something I didn't want to eat. Am I the asshole? Edit. Some of you are asking why my mother raised me to not eat just anyone's cooking. Here's the explanation. When I was younger, my mother ate food that some of my family members prepared, and so did I. Stuff was coming out of both ends for both of us. She never did it again. So my first question would obviously be the obvious one, is that why would you go to someone else's dinner party with no intention of eating the food or bringing it up beforehand? At least, so it doesn't come across as rude. And I was fully prepared to come into this one and say, there's no way you're going to be the asshole here. Because, you know, that if they were your boundaries and someone was trying to force you to eat, then absolutely not. But this one did feel very rude to me in the way that it was approached. And you said something along the lines of, I shook my head, saying my stomach hurt, and I would not be forcing myself to eat for the sake of anyone's feelings, and I don't just eat anyone's cooking. And you repeated that as well. And it's just like, oh, it doesn't feel like a very nice thing to say to me. And I understand boundaries are there for a reason, but you accepted a dinner invitation. You went there with the intention of, sounds like it, not eating in the first place because you don't eat anyone's cooking. You didn't bring it up beforehand, letting know people that you wouldn't be eating. And so you made yourself look like an asshole at the dinner table. And it's just that simple in the end, to me, I think. But Pink Starburst 757 says, you're the asshole. I don't see how saying, I don't eat just anyone's cooking, could be anything but an insult. Did you not know food would be served? And 7, that's a nope, saying, I really want to say not the asshole, but your reasoning of, I don't just eat anyone's cooking, is a special kind of cringeworthy. I am adamantly against the concept of, you must eat food provided even if you don't like it, for the sake of politeness. But damn, your reasoning for not even tasting the food is that your mother-in-law cooked it. Yeah, that's just rude, mean, cruel, and tactless. You're the asshole. ETA. Also, are you actually expecting us to believe that it is normal in African American culture to not eat food anyone but yourself is prepared? That seems unlikely. Or is it a you thing because your mother-in-law is Asian? Narrow Map says, you're the asshole. Who goes to a dinner party and doesn't eat the food? If you were feeling so unwell that you couldn't even eat a bite, then you should have stayed at home. But what you did was rude, frankly bizarre, and you potentially passed on whatever stomach thing you had going on that day, which is inconsiderate. An all-around asshole. And On says, you're the asshole. Why did you accept a dinner invitation if you had no intention of eating anything? If you knew before, you should have had your husband explain whatever the situation is to his mom, and if he knew and didn't warn mom, he's a huge asshole. This whole scenario is strange. Edit. Saw your comment that you basically thought your behavior was normal. No. Unless someone was sick, had a medical problem, allergy, or such, they'd at least try the food. Tanya says, you're the asshole. That's very basic manners to either bite of someone's cooking who graciously invited you over, not just an Asian thing. Also, you're invited to a dinner party. You're supposed to show up ready to eat and hungry. I also don't get they don't just eat anyone's cooking. What does this mean? And Pat James says, clearly you're the asshole. I don't just eat anyone's cooking, anyone's. And you wrote that twice. Did you think your mother-in-law was trying to poison you? What an insult. You are 15 to 20 minutes into dinner, but you're not in the mood to eat? Does the world revolve around you? Husband is Asian white. I'm African American, if that matters. No, it does not matter unless you feel that gives you entitlement, which it does not. You hadn't meant to be rude. Oh my God, I would hate to see what you would have done if you had. You owe your mother-in-law a huge apology. Get over yourself and grow up. And let's have one more cheeky one from Anonymous 1996 who says, "You're the asshole. If you're not going to eat, don't go to a dinner party. You sound like a snob." I just don't eat anyone's cooking. What entitlement.